We're ready to begin, and the game comes with these useful turn cycle reference cards, and on the back is a combat reference card. There's 4 of these. It's a 1 to 4 player game, so they are very useful, and they're just off screen here, and that's what I'm using to keep track of what I'm doing. Each turn is broken down into 3 steps. Step 1 is get the camera to focus, but actually it is breathe, and we're going to draw room cards until you have 2 in hand. Alright, so we'll draw 2, and then we're supposed to, let me bring the card back so it's easy to follow along, play 1 room card. If you can't, discard all room cards. In the solo game, in the back of the rule book, the variant states to play 2 cards. So we're going to play 2 room cards, and we'll follow along with those rules on the reference card that say if we can't place both of our cards on the catacombs in a legal manner, then we'll just discard both of them. The two rooms, we drew our echo chamber, which is open everywhere but the south, and it allows us to name and play any room. Well, that can be very useful because we can call out something from the Curse of the Moon card and get it on the board right away, but again we still have to wait for the doom to increase. And then we also got the Hall of the Dead, and when we enter here we have to lose 1 health or add 1 to the doom, which we could enter this a couple of times to help speed the counter along, so that's not a bad idea also. And this is open everywhere but the north. So I'm going to take a look at the catacombs that we have here and see where we can, and if we can, legally place these 2 cards. And also, both of them have a room type, so they will not cause a horror to appear. We can legally play both of these. The Echo Chamber will fit right here, next to the House of Skulls and Sea of Bones. And then the Hall of the Dead, I was hoping to get somewhere else because it's blocked to the north and open to the south, but both of these locations are no good because there's no opening on either side of the Pilgrim's Walk. There's nothing available over here. Can't go here, so we'll go ahead and place the Hall of the Dead right here for now. If we have to expand south because there's no other option, then I'll go ahead and move everything up so 1 more card can fit under here. We do have room at the top still for that if we have to do it. And then finally, the last part of the breathe step in the turn means we can adjust our array, and that means that I can take cards that are in my hand and swap them out or add them to my array at that time. I'm just going to go ahead and leave the sword where it is for now, and the shotgun's going to stay in my hand. And that is the only card in my hand, which is just that 1, and I have a hand limit of 4. Step 2 is the seek step. We can travel into an adjacent room or force a new room to be played. If I do force a new room, I'll explain how that works. And then when we go into the new room, we will follow the inscription on the new room first. So let's zoom in and see what our choices are. My choices are the Pilgrim's Walk, which means I could ignore the next hazard. The Old Knights, where I would only roll 1 die if I was in combat there. The Inscriptorium, I can look at a player's hand, which doesn't matter in a solo game. The Worm's Crawl would cause me to discard 1 card. I think I'm going to head to the south to stay away from the eyeless beast to the north, because it causes me to do combat with my weakest trait, and I don't want to really risk losing health this early in the game right now. I'm going to move to the south, and I'm going to have to cross this grit or grit symbol hazard, which I believe is representing a spike hazard. So instead of costing me 1 to move into that room, it's going to cost me 2 because I don't have anything that can help me avoid it. My climbing gear helps me avoid the camera focusing, helps me avoid hazards with the daring symbol. That's no good here. And you can also avoid hazards that are the same as your character symbol, and unfortunately for me, I also have a daring symbol for my character, so I can't avoid it, and it's going to cost me 2 movement to move into the inscriptorium. When we enter, we have to follow the inscription. There are no other players' hands to look at, so that doesn't matter now. And then we make a room roll, which is a 6-sided die. If we roll a 1 or a 2, we're going to add 1 to the doom counter. And then it says other players draw a horror. But in this case, in the solo game, if we roll a 1 or a 2, we would draw and play the horror in the room with us. 3, 4, 5, nothing happens. If we get a 6, we draw a find. These are not the dice that come with the game, but I'm going to use them because I like them better. The dice that come with the game are these black dice with the gold pips on them. But I want to go ahead and use these double 6s for this playthrough. And we'll go ahead and do the room roll. And we got a 1. That's not a good start. We're going to add our first notch on our doom counter, and the game does not come with a specific token for that. So I'm just going to use these clear glass 1 over top of the 1 to show that we're at number 1 on the doom counter. And I misspoke. In the solo game, you don't draw and play a horror, you draw a horror, which means it's going to go into my hand, but it will get played later. So we're going to have the feelings of dread in our hand. Shift 3 rooms toward the catacombs entrance. And if this was after, then we would have to shift 5 rooms. And I'll explain what the difference is between shifting and moving. That's going to go on our hand for now, along with our shotgun. And unrelated to what we're doing right now, I just wanted to take a moment to stop and talk about the art on this card. I don't know why, but this one I really like. I like the art style in the game, but I really like this card. That really conveys a feeling and a sense of dread. That is a great way to represent it. Then we would resolve combat, but there is nothing to combat in this room. And then we can travel into new rooms as long as we have movement points left. So we still have 3 remaining of the 5 we started with. Let's see where our next move will take us. At this point, I don't know if I want to move further because I know what's coming as far as what's going to happen to me. I don't want to move down into the Hall of the Dead right away because I'm definitely not going to lose a health, so I would add another to the Doom. And then if I wanted to move any more, I could either force a room to appear here or go to the Sea of Bones and play any discarded room, which there are no discarded rooms right now. I don't want to go to the Elder Tomb and draw another horror, because if I do that, I'm going to have a couple in my hand. I will choose to stop moving and end my seek phase, or the seek step of this turn, because I don't want to cause anything bad to happen, and I'm going to end up back at the catacombs entrance, as you'll see right now, because we're going to move to step 3, survive. Other players may each play 1 horror from their hands, or shift an existing horror towards an explorer. There are no other players, and this is a solo game. So let me show you in the back of our rule book. If you have any horror cards in hand, play 1 against yourself during the survive step. I only have 1, which is our feelings of dread, that I'll play against myself, and I'll shift 3 rooms toward the catacomb entrance. Well, I'm only 1 away from the catacomb entrance, so I only really need to shift 1. So I'm right back where I started. I got that uneasy feeling. I stepped into the inscriptorium and was like, I'm not too sure about this, so I had to fall back because of my feelings of dread to the entrance to regroup and gather my thoughts. When you shift, because the card says to shift, you do not interact with items on the cards. So you would not, if you were shifting through several rooms, you would not play what it says on the inscription. You would ignore any hazards as far as the movement goes. If there were any horrors in there, you could combat them, but that is optional. You could shift right past them. I didn't have to worry about any of that except for there was one hazard here. I just had to shift by it. No big deal. And then finally, all of the horrors in the solo game will shift one step closer to the explorer. So the eyeless beast is going to move down into the Pilgrim's Walk and be just north of us. And crawling chaos will slither its way over here into the Elder Tomb and be just a few away from us. And that's going to end this, our first turn. And we have to really be careful. Like I said, that eyeless horror causes us to use our weakest trait to combat it. And again, I'll explain combat thoroughly during our first encounter. But we're going to have to get past it somehow, because we got to collect these tokens. Unless we want to come down here to the echo chamber and name a room and get the Curse of the Moon started by going into these rooms that'll cause the doom to go up. But we have to be careful, because if we have a couple of room rolls that end with 1s and 2s and the doom's going to move even faster, we may end up getting to 9 and ending our game prematurely. But I think I'm going to want to just go right at the crawling chaos and attack it head on, because that will keep me from... Yeah, you lose 1 health when this horror enters their room. So I want to enter the room and attack it. That way I don't lose a health. Like I said, I only have 3. That's not much to work with, so I have to be very careful. Ready to start the next round. We need to find a way to get away from this entrance, because we got the eyeless beast and the crawling chaos. They're right next to us, ready to come at us. We'll start with our breathe step, draw 2 rooms, and unfortunately for us, one of them, well, Chamber of the Sun, we need that, but it does not have a type. But this is that one place that I know of that we can regain all of our health that we lose during the game. And the Chamber of the Sun is where we need to end the Curse of the Moon, so we need to find the Temple of the Moon also. And then we have the candlelit crux. You may travel into 1 extra room. The candlelit crux is open on all sides, and the Chamber of the Sun is only open to the south. We don't have a lot of choice here. The Chamber of the Sun will fit just fine here, because it's not open to the north or any other side except the south, so it fits good with that big room to the north. But the candlelit crux, since it's open on all sides, can only go 1 place, and that is down here next to the echo chamber. Let's go ahead and draw our our horror for the Chamber of the Sun. Yep, it has the eye symbol on it, so that one we'll have to shuffle back in. That has the eye symbol. This does not. These are the nailed ones. A defeated explorer also discards his array. Well, we have to worry about that afterwards. But the nailed ones are going to make an appearance by showing up in the Chamber of the Sun. So we have another horror to deal with. And then another Seeker After Horror token can go into place. But now things are getting a little dicey. We got a couple of horrors coming at us. Man, that is rough. Okay, now we can adjust our array. Do I want to change out the shotgun for the sword? Let's see what their abilities are again. We know they both add 1 to rolls in combat. This one I can say I add 2 before rolling, and then I would have to discard it. That's what's currently in my array. And the shotgun, you can also re-roll your dice once in combat. If you do so, discard this card after combat. I will rearrange, have the shotgun in place, and put the sword into my hand. I will shuffle in these two horrors that we drew that had the eye symbol on them that we could not play in that Chamber of the Sun. And I'll go with the shotgun, that way if I get really desperate, I can at least re-roll any attack that I have. And now I have to come up with a plan as to where I want to go. I'll have a lot of choices here. I could head north and attack the eyeless beast, but I would have to use my worst, lowest trait, which would be my grit of 3, and it has a grit of 4, and that makes a difference because in combat you both use the same trait. But I'll explain that in greater detail when I do my first combat. I don't want to go up here and attack the nailed ones because as soon as I enter the Chamber of the Sun, I have to do what the inscription says, which is regain all lost health once per game. So if I go in there and waste it when I'm not even wounded, that doesn't make sense. I could come down here and attack the crawling chaos because it doesn't get that bonus unless it enters my room, and that'll give me some distance away from the Pilgrim's Walk. But the room, the Elder Tomb, opponents draw a horror, which means I would have to draw a horror first before any combat and have 2 of them to deal with in that room. I think the course of action I'm going to take right now is I'm going to come back down to the Inscriptorium and then go over to the depths. And that'll draw the nailed ones, the eyeless beast, and then the crawling chaos all towards me, but not into my room. And then the following turn I can come out of the room and attack the crawling chaos in a room that doesn't cause me to draw another horror. Yes, that's the approach I'll take. So we'll move into the Inscriptorium, and I crossed that hazard, so that used up 2 move total, so I'm down to 3. I need to do a room roll. Now would be a really nice time to get a 6 and get a find. Oh, nice! And thanks to my treasure hunter, when you would draw a find, you may instead draw 2 and discard 1. So that'll give me something that I can choose. Hopefully I don't draw 2 really great ones here. Let's see what we end up with. We have the illuminated pistol. After you lose combat, you may cause the winning horror to be discarded also. If you do, discard this card. That might be good for going up against the eyeless beast since I got to use my weakest. Amulet of the Illuminatus. You may add 1 on all rolls until the end of your turn. If you do so, lose 1 health at the end of the turn. Wow, that's a pretty rough one. I don't have the health to be giving them away, so I'll discard the amulet and I will take the illuminated pistol into my hand. I can't equip it right away because that will be something you do when you adjust your array during the breathe step of the turn. We'll go ahead and move again. It's only going to cost 1 this time because there's no hazard, so we still have 2 moves left. Maybe I'll change my plan up a little bit. I do have to add to the Doom though for going into the depths. The Doom will now go up another notch to 2. Now I have to do another room roll, and if you get a 6 on one of your room rolls during that same turn, you can't get another find again. So if I rolled a 6 here, it'd just be as if nothing were to happen. And it goes the same for the horror. If you roll a 1 or a 2 and you have to increase the Doom and draw and play a horror or draw a horror card, then you can only do that once per turn also. So we're actually looking for anything here other than a 1 or a 2. And a 4 means nothing happens. We'll take nothing. I'm going to stick with my plan and stop my movement there. Now I'm into the survive step, and I would have to play any horrors that I had in my hand, and I do not have any this time, so I don't have to play any. But everyone, well, I say everyone, all of the horrors will now shift 1 closer to me. Nailed ones move south. The eyeless beast moves south. And the Crawling Chaos moves to the east. A couple are only one room away. Although the catacombs entrance, there can be no combat there until we get to the halfway, or past the halfway point. So I could, in the next turn, maybe come over here, fight the Crawling Chaos, and then make a dash to the north, because if I can get up there to the top, I can draw a find.